debt affects everybody differently. It's a function of so many variables: the income you have, the expenses you have, life circumstances, and certainly age and stage. And we're going to focus on that particular variable today. If you're a senior, it can be particularly challenging to get out of debt for a whole bunch of reasons. You don't have decades of work ahead of you. So what do you do? Some people may choose to pursue a consumer proposal or even a bankruptcy filing and want to make sure that we understand what those options are, when it makes sense, when it doesn't. Our guest is Joshua Harris. He is a licensed insolvency trustee and CEO at Harrison Partners. Hello there.
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
What is different for a senior carrying debt than for someone younger, both in terms of, how the creditors view that person and what it's like for them personally?
Yeah, it's definitely different in many ways. As you mentioned before, there's very little earning power at certain stages in life, depending on your health and your age, just overall. As well as you may be in a situation where you have some accidental wealth. You may have bought a property for quite cheap and it's now worth a bunch of money and you don't have a mortgage. So you have debt like consumer debt, like credit cards and things like that. And you've got this wealth that is difficult to access, and sometimes you don't understand how to access it. So you're sort of in a stuck position. But definitely the most common thing that we see is earning power. It's difficult to make money when you reach a certain age.
What would you say in terms of ageism in our culture? Because there's part of this is just it's the numbers. It's just the numbers. It's credit score and income and like it's very specific and tangible. But there can also be a dynamic in which we judge people differently because of the color of their hair.
Yeah. Um, uh, it's definitely something that's out there. When it comes to jobs these days that, a lot of them have AI or computers involved, it can be quite challenging to teach someone how to do something like that at an older age, or at least the appearance of it being more difficult. And then the jobs that aren't like that are often more challenging and taxing on the body, whether it's stocking shelves at the grocery store or something like that. And,
Yeah.
we all remember the Walmart welcome greeter. Well, that job's gone.
Right.
And that was one that was very senior friendly. So the jobs are getting a lot more tech oriented. Younger people get more frustrated trying to teach tech to older people. And they just don't see the long-term potential. I put in
Mm.
6 months of training with you. Are you going to be here in 2 years kind of thing? We see it everywhere.
Talk to me a bit about the continuum of debt worries. Because I think, on the one end, there's like, oh, I'm having trouble paying off my credit card in full. And on the other end, it's like, I can't make my mortgage payment and I'm going to the food bank. So, in terms of the seniors that you engage with, give us a flavor for the kinds of circumstances they find themselves in.
Yeah, I mean it's fairly across the spectrum. Like I said, like there's a lot of this accidental wealth where someone will come in and their only options are, sell that home that you were hoping to pass on to your kids, or refinance it in some way, shape, or form, or have your kids help you so that you can preserve that family asset. And that has actually become less and less common as time goes on. A lot more people and seniors have sold those homes already or passed them down to their kids already, sort of an early inheritance. So what we're seeing a lot more of now is, I'm living off of CPP and OAS and sometimes guaranteed income supplement, and it's simply not enough to pay the rent, even though I live in not downtown Toronto. I live in Oshawa or something. The rent is still 2,000 a month for a one bedroom, and I can't afford groceries because I only get 2,200 a month from the government. It's coming from all sides now.
For those in acute need, there are two options that licensed insolvency trustees like yourselves can help them with. One is a consumer proposal, the other is a bankruptcy filing. Both are regulated under the OSB. Let's start with the consumer proposal. For whom is that the ideal fit?
Yeah, so generally a consumer proposal would be for someone that has a little bit of a higher income. The OSB, which is the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, they set a threshold of their what they consider sort of the poverty line. It's set by the federal government, and any dollar you earn above that, 50 cents of it needs to be paid into an insolvency, whether it's a consumer proposal or bankruptcy. And the main difference between the two is that in a proposal, you'll have a longer period of time to pay that same amount. So it'll be stretched out longer. So if you have a part-time job or you have a private pension in addition to your CPP and OAS, or you have assets, then you're going to want to consider a consumer proposal. It'll just be a more digestible payment. Um, It'll also protect you against garnishments. It'll also protect your assets, and it protects your credit a little bit better. But that's credit is not usually the main topic of discussion with a senior.
Right. Bankruptcy filing. For whom is that the option? I mean, we all talk about that being the last resort, but for some people, that's exactly what should happen.
Yeah, and if you're in that lower income bracket, like low income, no assets, or no income, no assets, you're going to fall into that category because you want to get this done very quickly. You're going to get want to get it done fairly cheap, and that's where bankruptcy is a really good option. Something that's really important to talk about in both of these options that most people don't know is that government pensions are actually non-garnishable. So even
Hmm.
though a creditor could sue you and seize your bank account, they can't go to the CRA and say, give me their CPP every month. So if you can handle the annoying phone calls um, or the letters or whatever it is, and
Mm.
you're just on CPP and OAS, then kind of ignore it if you can handle it. But we're here if you can't.
One of the biggest concerns I think seniors would have for who are homeowners at least is I can't even pick up the phone to call Joshua or a licensed insolvency or a Credit Canada because someone's going to take my house. What is true about that fear and what is really not true about that fear?
Yeah, I mean, our goal as a trustee is always to protect your assets as much as possible. And that might be advising you to go to someone like Credit Canada and doing a DMP. It might be advising you to find a mortgage broker to do refinancing or something like that. The last thing we want to do is take someone out of their house. And that's where we'll usually look at the proposal option, even if it does pay back 100% of the debt. It'll stretch it out, it'll stop interest, it'll make things more comfortable and digestible. Um, Nobody wants to see someone, lose their home or what could be like basically an heirloom.
Yeah. Another thing that people are very concerned about is their savings inside of a TFSA or an RRSP. You said with CPP, it's not, you can't garnish that. What's the status of people's retirement savings, and does it matter where those retirement savings are?
Great question. So, registered products like an RRSP, an RIF, an LIF, which are basically all the same thing, depending on the province in Canada, is fully protected, excluding the 12 months of deposits, the 12 months prior to the insolvency filing. That only applies to a few provinces. An example, in Alberta, you can put the money in the day before and it's protected. So your retirement fund and your pension, your DPSP, all of those that you would have gone through work are generally protected from creditors inside and outside of an insolvency. Um, TFSAs are not.
Gotcha. Okay. What are some of the other frequently asked questions that come to you that if you and I could just snap our fingers and answer, it would save not only time, but also anxiety for the people who are like, I can't even pick up the phone to get the information. What are the things that you'd like people to know, seniors who are carrying debt?
I think one of the most important things, because seniors, especially they've lived a long time and they have a lot of shame saying, I made it to 75. Why do I have to do this now? And unfortunately, it's the world we live in. And a lot of people are going through the same thing. It's important that they understand they're not alone. We are compassionate. We are human too. We've seen these circumstances, and not everything ends with a bankruptcy. Not everything is doom and gloom. A lot of the people that come to us get referred outwards or are told that it's not the right solution or to help them budget or whatever it is. So, you know, sometimes it's okay to just suck in that humility and come out and get your questions answered because it's going to take a load off.
Senior is a word that encapsulates so many different circumstances. You could have someone who has real limitations, who's 55, someone like my dad who has no limitations and is 90. So the word is very, very broad in definition. But what would you say about some of the things that are probable as we age? Cognitive decline, physical decline. How do they connect to this question about how do you resolve a debt issue?
Well, one really important thing that's not necessarily about the debt itself, but about the overall picture is to make sure you have your affairs in order. And that includes a power of attorney for financial um, transactions and things like that. That's a really important one because you don't know when your mind is going to go. And sometimes your kids might need to put you into a bankruptcy or next of kin or whoever is that power of attorney, it's really important because it can be very challenging to work around those circumstances where you're 90% there, but it just doesn't feel comfortable for you to
Mm.
do that. The other thing is it's okay to age. It's okay to lose certain abilities. It's okay to ask for help. And frankly, like these creditors can't get blood from a stone. So like at the end of the day, if you're just on that pension, you're living in a senior's home, just ignore it. Like you turn off the phone. Who cares? Enjoy what you have left.
Question that I actually haven't considered before is what happens if you are in a consumer proposal at time of death? How does the estate resolve that? Where does that go?
Yeah, that's absolutely the number one question I get from every age category. Um, and the good news is that debt does not transfer upon an untimely death or upon any death for that matter. Um, and that's oversimplifying it, but to make it a little bit, take it one step further, if an estate has assets when the person passes away, the estate becomes responsible for those debts. And the solution usually is that the estate will just finish the consumer proposal or the bankruptcy to get that discharge. However, most cases, like 99% plus of what we see when someone passes away, there was no assets in the estate. The debt dies with the person and everyone just moves on.
Really interesting stuff. We have to move on here, but Joshua, I really appreciate your insight.
Yeah,
It's
great
great.
chatting with you.
Joshua Harris is a licensed insolvency trustee. He is CEO at Harris and Partners, and he was here to talk about a super important demographic that is seniors who are carrying debt.